Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another Wumu. This is going to be a doozy. It's going to be the start of a series I've basically already done. I just need to film them. This first episode will be on what I consider the great deception, the ultimate lie, and the main reason for where humanity is where it is today. All right, you'll notice below my little live video there, nuance is required, okay? We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater in regards to this stuff. As is so often done with these binary takes in this black and white dualistic world that we live in currently, there is so much lost in disregarding this whole aspect of the other, okay? Now, as a little preamble, complex issues require a multidisciplinary approach. So this isn't just this first episode, this is a theme to come. What I mean by this is, for the physicists out there, how are you supposed to develop physics without philosophy, right? And in metaphysics, how are you meant to even conceptualize what metaphysics are without spirituality? All these things are interconnected. All the greatest minds throughout antiquity have all been polymaths. They've all been multidisciplinary in their curiosities, their educational pursuits, their learning. So it's important to maintain various angles, various perspectives in approaching these hugely complex issues, all right? We'll be delving into a lot of symbology. Symbology, is brilliant in what it is able to convey. For example, you can't write as fast as you think. You can't type as fast as you think. A picture says 1,000 words. You could say a meme, which is a cultural artifact, says 10,000 words. Well, a symbol can have a whole book and then some written within it. It can have multi-layered, deep esoteric wisdom and meaning encoded within it, which lasts throughout antiquity across all cultures. It is a ubiquitously accepted symbol, a communication, language, okay? So we're going to be delving into a bit of that. The first few episodes of this series, I'll keep on a lighter note. I know many out there have somewhat of a bloodlust at the moment in terms of their curiosities and their fascination, especially with the Epstein files coming to light, but we'll save them for a later episode. I think what is most important to begin with is understanding and getting a grounded knowledge of where these people that control our world, what this reality is, the knowledge basis that they're working from, okay? Because we're taught one thing completely different to the other. Now, what is this great lie? So, around 2,000 years ago, this idea of the church, which is just a mask, okay? All these religion and money are the two main control mechanisms in society. They are, so a persona in Latin literally means a mask. It was a mask worn in Greco-Roman plays. It is essentially your avatar, so that is your ego. These people that are playing the role of Pope or Rebbe or whatever it may be in these exoteric religions, these are just masks. None of them believe in it. That is the crazy thing, and that is the great deception. So where this began, at least in my interpretation of, was the demonization of the serpent, okay? In the Adam and Eve story especially. And what this did is, outside of instilling this fear of God, so fear itself, doubt in self, not understanding who we are, and this horrible notion that we're born a sinner, when they are the ones who define what sin is, it's programmed us into this victim mentality. There's always an other to blame, therefore absolving ourselves of any quote-unquote or perceived evil within ourselves. It's always someone else's fault. And when the brainwashees begin doing the brainwashing, which is what the genius masterstroke of this elite class has managed to introduce into society over the course of centuries, if not millennia, you end up in the world where we are today, completely divided, no one knowing what is true. And I mean, it's a real shit fight, isn't it? You know? Now, understand, again, this is nuanced, but before condemning these people for taking advantage of our gullibility, so to speak, you need to appreciate the genius in it. We do have free will. In fact, this is what the story of Adam and Eve represents, is free will. Adam representing the left hemisphere of the brain, Eve the right, the tree of life being your nervous system, the serpent, which we'll get into, your kundalini energy, and the fruit, the apple, is the wisdom. That is the enlightenment, the gnosis, okay? And they've scared us away from this, literally, and it is genius, okay? For those who have seen The Handmaid's Tale, and this is how clever and subversive they are, because they give you the truth while disguising it in perceived evil. So for any of you who've seen Handmaid's Tale, blessed be the fruit. Well, yeah, blessed be the fruit. That is the enlightenment of the apple of the Adam and Eve story. But when set in this dystopian context, you don't really think about it, or you write it off as being a negative, you know. So they're turning you away from it while throwing it out there in plain sight, you know. It is genius. And another little side note, the word genius actually stems from genie, which itself stems from jinn, D-J-I-N-N, the Islamic idea of a daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, your guardian spirit or what have you, okay? Now, the serpent. What is the serpent? Now, this is a symbol, again, ubiquitous throughout all cultures, throughout all of antiquity. We can see here where, from our modern human history, at least back until biblical times, this is the center of all knowledge that we have received today, and that is ancient Egypt. So on the right, we have a pharaonic headdress. You can see the little cobra perched off his third eye, off his brow there, and the tail extending through the chin. This represents the female serpentine goddess Wejet, who symbolizes sovereignty, divine wisdom, and royalty. Right? In Hellenistic Greek times, probably the most famous serpent symbol of all of them, the Ouroboros we have on the left side, or perhaps very close second, if not equal first, the caduceus, here held in Hermes, or Mercury in Roman mythological terms. The caduceus representing, and this is the beauty of symbology, right? What does that represent? Well, it represents our DNA, it represents medicine, it represents the four cardinal points, the plumed serpent, horizontal representing the material, the vertical, the spiritual, the feminine, the masculine. There is so much encoded with these symbols, okay? And have one little guess what else will pop up from that. Yes, you guessed it. What does Jesus on the cross represent? The same thing, okay? These pass down throughout different mythologies, different contexts, different times, different cultures, but it all means the same thing. It's all the same thing encoded, passed down throughout time, okay? Here we have in Hindu lens, the Kundalini coiled serpent on the left, rising up the 7 chakras, and on the right, these mythical beings of the Nagas, these reptilian, serpentine demigods. And important to note again here, the 7 chakras, you also notice the 7 cobras surrounding the crown of this divine being. Here, the left side, and this is just mind-boggling. The precision, detail, and just sheer beauty, aesthetic beauty of these structures. But we have the Serpent Mound on the left here, based in Ohio, which, like all these famous temple sites, these sacred holy sites, 99 times out of 100, they will be tracking astrological reference points. More often than not, the equinoxes and the solstices. As we can see here on the right side, this is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent of Teotihuacan. this was taken on the spring equinox, and you can see, I mean, obviously I don't have a GIF of this unfortunately, but as the sun moves through the sky on the specific either spring or the fall equinox, you get this serpentine, looks like a snake slithering down to the bottom. I mean, it's just beautiful. Quetzalcoatl, who that Temple of the Feathered Serpent is dedicated to here on the right, and me coming from Australia, it would be rude not to throw in the rainbow serpent, okay? And again, just small little nuanced things. Notice the 7 colors in the rainbow serpent. This is all connected, okay? We have St. George dragon on the right here, and your quintessential Chinese dragon that you'll see at New Year's on the left. This all represents the same thing. Now, before we get into what this serpent is, and again, there's many interpretations of this. It is more nuanced than, okay, this is this and not that, okay? But I'd like to bring attention to this idea of the slay the dragon or the beast to get the princess, the treasure. It is the knight in shining armor motif, the hero's journey. Now, hero, originally Hiru, means sun god incarnated on earth. Okay, now that's important to keep in note, to take note of, rather. Now, I'm sure many of these mythologies you'll be very familiar with. I want to bring particular attention to Hercules and the Perseus and Cetus mythologies. I'll touch on them in a couple of slides coming up, just to kind of give you an idea of where these myths hail from, okay? But first things first, all right. What is the feathered serpent, the plumed serpent? And we'll knock 2 birds with 1 stone here. What is the sinner? So what you're looking at is a shitty drawing of mine, but it is a 2-dimensional silhouette of the Earth, okay? Throughout the center, that horizontal line through the center is the equator. The dotted green line above it, the Tropic of Cancer, and the one below, the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, that line, that curve, and the ball on the far right, that represents the sun's path over the Earth throughout a solar year, okay? Now, in geometric terms, what do you call that line? It is a sine wave. This is where we get the sinner, because we are created in the mirror image of our Father, the Sun, okay? So you have the ball, the sun itself, and its rays of light, which get distorted through interference patterns from the vibrations of other planets and celestial objects, but we'll save that for another episode. That is what the plumed serpent is. That is what the sinner is. It is a sine wave of the sun. Now, Jesus, we're going to get a little deep into this, but Jesus, the fisher of men, and understand, so this first episode is what you'd consider the Astro-theologian interpretation of the Bible. In the second episode, we'll be covering the esoteric anatomical interpretation, but this is the Astro-theologian, which basically means astrology derived through myth, or theology, okay? So, important also to note here, obviously, we have the 4 cardinal points in King James Bible terms. These would be the 4 Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In Egyptian mythology, on the west, so the spring equinox, which we've just had, by the way, I'll get to that, but that would be Horus. Okay, this is where we get the word hour. Up the very top, representing the summer solstice, we would have Ra. Amun-Ra, that's where we get Amen. But Ra is where we get radiate. It's the sun at its brightest, the summer solstice. On the far right, we would have Set, Osiris's brother, who viciously chops him up and entombs him and all this sort of nasty stuff. This is where we get sunset, and this is where the sun enters fall, because the sun falls past the equator, down past the equator. And down the bottom, we have Osiris, god of the underworld. This would be where Satan would reside. Or Dante's Inferno, for any classical fans out there. The word inferno, representing hell, stems from the Latin word for winter, inverno. Okay? This is all astrological references. And before we move on, and I will come back to this, But right through the center, in that equilibrium point, important word to remember, equilibrium, there is a geometric structure there called the Vesica Pisces. This is the Jesus, the Christian fish symbol, Jesus being the fisher of men, the sun in the age of Pisces, okay? But it represents the yin and the yang, harmony, okay? Equilibrium, because that is where Libra, equilibrium, is on the zodiac calendar, right? Jesus, the 12 apostles, the 12 zodiacs, the 4 gospels, the 4 seasons, 4 cardinal points, right? We'll get into all that. Now, the Holy Land represents the holy body. Understand, we are universe experiencing man, not man experiencing universe. We are a microcosm to the macrocosm. For any of you familiar with Hermetic tradition, as above, so below, as within, so without, we are the universe. Okay? Now, throughout this central ecliptic line, you find the 12 main horoscopes, the 12 zodiacs that the sun passes through. But this sine wave, and you'll note it's moving in a different direction to this one. Very interesting, and forgive me for a little sidetrack here, but that is because time moves both forwards and backwards. So synchronicity is actually retrocausality, which is an idea that scientists just despise the idea of. I mean, most people do, understandably, that the future can affect your past and the past can affect your future. But this is demonstrably provable through quantum mechanics, but we'll save that for another video. So this, at the very far right, I understand you can't see my cursor, but at the far right, the sun at the Easter equinox, where we are right now in the calendar year, you are in Aries, so the Lamb of God. All right. Now it rises up, as you can see through this pink line, and there's something very important to note here. So you can see in cyan, there is a circled constellation. In red, you can see a circled constellation, and in yellow, you can see a circled constellation. Well, what are these? I'll go back up. This is representing this middle section here within the Vesica Pisces, within the Jesus fish, the equilibrium, okay? This top constellation is called the Corona Borealis. It is the crown of thorns, okay? Now the second one is Libra. This is the equilibrium, right? And the bottom one, you guessed it, it is the cross, the Southern Cross. The constellation's name? Crux. It is the crux of the story. Okay? The Astro-theologian aspect of the Bible is allegory. There wasn't some dude, Jesus, who got put up on some cross and tortured. No. We're talking about the sun here. As Ra and Horus was, as Apollo was in Greek, as Sol was, or Mithra, it is the sun, God incarnate on earth. Okay? I touched on the idea of Hercules and Perseus and Cetus. So, at the very far right, you can see the constellation of Perseus. A little below him, you can see Cetus. And at the very top left, just under where I am right now, you can see Andromeda that it saves. Okay, what else can we see? Oh, there's Hercules. At the very top one, just on the left side of where Northern Constellation is. And what does Hercules do? What is the mythology of Hercules? Well, he has 12 impossible tasks. His first one, slaying the lion. Lyra, which is right next to him. The second one, the Hydra serpent. Draco, Serpents. Okay, this is what that mythology is encoding. Important stuff, and so fascinating and so beautiful, right? There is so much in this. I mean, I could go on for hours, but I'll save you that. The Last Supper. All right, Jesus, the Son of God, in the dead center, and note the three windows behind him. I'm saving that for another episode. But what do we have here? We have Jesus, the Son of God, and his 12 apostles. They are set up into four groups of three. Okay, why? The four seasons, each one representing a month of the zodiac. This is what this is. Now, the plumed serpent, I'll quickly run back. You can kind of see this squiggly line with the sun itself being the head and its tail being its ray of light. Well, understanding the Hermetic idea of correspondence or fractal geometry or as above, so below, this has to work on many levels. So, at the most micro level, obviously you have the sperm. On a more macro level, you have the sun twisting through space with the planets in orbit spiraling behind it. And in between that, you ready for this? Now attach your spine to that, and what do you have? You have the plumed serpent, okay? The hooded cobra, whatever you want to call it. And now this center of the brain, the basal ganglia, the claustrum, the third ventricle, the third eye, this is the God center. This is where it all happens. Okay, this is where your endogenous DMT and all the good indoctrines live. On the far right, the Eye of Horus. The Egyptians knew this stuff. So before people start writing off all this Freemasonic, Knights Templar, secret society, occult knowledge as demonic, just sit and think, what is the most powerful commodity in the world? It's not money, it's fucking knowledge, okay? You got to know this stuff. You have to understand the way these people think that are ruling us if you are to stand any chance in evolving out of this Orwellian dystopia, okay? And yes, this is real, folks. The Vatican Performance Center. So these blokes are the one demonizing the serpent. Well, I mean, who are they? I mean, it beggars belief, doesn't it? What a beautiful structure, though, by the way. And these folks down the bottom left, dressed up as clowns, we'll be getting into that at a later episode. So interesting. Now, back to the astro-theologian aspect of Scripture itself. I'll start off on the far right, because we just had the Vatican up, and here is the Pope wearing a fish head on his head. We can see at the bottom right again the Christian fish symbol, the Jesus fish, the Vesica Pisces, and this is all meant to represent Dagon, the Babylonian fish god. And you can see the two opposing fish looking at each other. That is Pisces, okay? Now, I am open to other ideas, more speculative, far out, kind of fun ideas to explore, which I'll get into at a later episode. But I just want you to understand that in the age of Pisces, which we just finished last week, this is why Christianity worships the fish. Now, prior to that, we had the Old Testament, and when was that written? Well, the Lamb of God. It was written in Aries, the age of Aries. Okay, so up the top you can see the shofar, the ram's horn, which they blow on Yom Kippur, and the curls, the peyot. And you can see this statue down on the bottom left with the ram on the shoulders. That is what that represents. They are representing the sun in the constellation of the ram, of Aries, okay? Older still, we have the Apis bull on the left here of Egypt. And of course, I mean, the Hindus don't eat cow, it's a holy cow. Why? Because the Vedic texts were descended from the age of Taurus, the bull. This is Astro-theology, folks, 101. Now, some fun facts, and they're fun, I promise you. So the Greek edition of the Torah meaning law, which is interesting. If you take away the H, you can get orat, in Latin, means to speak. You can get rato, to measure, arto, to create, tarot, cards, another esoteric symbolism, just an interesting word. But the Torah written by the 72 disciples, or the elders, the 6 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm sure we can all understand what they are now. By the way, so in the Bible, you have... Actually, I'll get to that. So what are the 72... And this is so fascinating. 72 disciples. And the Greek equivalent, the Septuagint, was named because of this. It takes 72 years for the sun to rotate 1 degree in the precession of equinoxes on Earth. Okay? Now, 72 times 360 degrees, you get 25,920, which is the Great Mayan Year, which finished March 21st of this year. We've just entered a new golden age and the age of Aquarius. So welcome, folks. And if it's of any consolation, if anyone knows this, it is the ruling elite. You can't fight rhythm of the universe. You can't fight what is, So there's opportunity for them to salvate themselves, but we'll get into that in a later episode. Interesting, right? Now, also 72. We have 72 heartbeats in our homeostatic resting state. 72 years in the average human life. Also with 7, it's 7 hertz of the Schumann resonance of Earth. 7 cycles of the brain per second is our idyllic state. But the 72 times 60, so 72 heartbeats per minute times 60, you get this magic number. 4,320. So 432 hertz is the perfect resonant harmonic A in an octave, musically speaking. The Great Pyramid, and this is a trip out. And tell me these Egyptians weren't tapped in, right? The Great Pyramid is a 1 to 43,200th the scale of the Northern Hemisphere, or half the Earth. Its height times 43,200 is the polar radius of the Earth. Its base perimeter times 43,200 is the equatorial circumference of Earth. 432,000 miles is the sun's radius, while double the moon's diameter is 4,320 miles. You telling me this isn't divine architecture? How's this one? Its coordinates, 29.9792458 degrees north, is what light speed is. Like, what? 4,320,000 years it takes for a full precession of all the planets to return back to base. This is crazy shit, right? Now, the Kabbalist word tevel represents the number 432 and is translated to the world or spiritual light. Now, I'm recording this as of the 16th of April, so we've just had Easter, right? What is Easter? Well, it is Passover. This is Moses passing over into Israel, from Egypt. It is the sun passing over the equator, winter moving into spring, representing the rebirth of nature. The Catholics have Mass on Sunday at sunrise to celebrate the Eastern Star, the morning star. So that is the same thing. Lucifer and Jesus, same thing. Sorry, folks. Passing up over the equator. Passover is celebrating the same thing as Easter, Eastern Star, because the sun rises in the east, right? Another little fun fact. This is a quote from the Bible. As you enter this city, a man carrying water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters. This is what the Last Supper symbolizes, by the way. It's a Passover meal. It represents the water bearer, the age of Aquarius. Age of Pisces, Pisces moving into Aquarius. Whenever you see the word mansion or house, it represents a palace of God, a zodiacal sign. Okay? Now, this is funny. This is a trip. So, especially within the church structure, a deacon is 10 degrees of the zodiac. A cardinal, well, you have full cardinal points. A minister is a moon star or a mini star. You know, you have superstars, you have fraudstars, you have gangsters, you have rock stars, you're a master. You know, when you get your master's degree, it gets measured in, your star gets measured in degrees, right? Because we are all made of stars. If you know the Moby song. Now, Nissan, the Nissan logo is Passover. It is the sun rising through the equator, right? Subaru, 7 stars of Pleiades. There are so many astrological references that we are just completely blind to because we're told it's woo-woo, says woo-moo, right? JP Morgan, OG1, this is the 1800s, not a good bloke, but he's telling you something here. Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. All right, let's get on to the big dog. Saturn, Satan, Kronos, the Demiurge, Lord of the Rings, Father Time, the Grim Reaper. He comes by many names. Now, you'll see him depicted over here on the right. This is the Greek mythological sort of depiction of him. In the myth, Saturn, Kronos, kills his father, Uranus, and devours his child, representing both time moving forwards and backwards. And Saturn, Kronos, is chronology, meaning time, father time, time devours all. Okay? Just another little interesting side note talking on the whole idea of time moving forwards and backwards. So the Egyptians, I'm not sure how many of you people have seen the movie The Mummy, but you remember the Egyptians worshipped the scarab beetle, which in essence is literally just a dung beetle, pushes shit. But why did they worship this, seemingly innocuous kind of insect? Well, as it pushes this ball of dung forwards, representing the sun, it is facing backwards. It is moving backwards, representing time moving both forwards and backwards. Super fascinating stuff. Anyway, so back to Saturn. Oh, by the way, Lord of the Rings, anyone who has seen Lord of the Rings, this is what that is in reference to. So you'll see in the middle here, this South Pole, you get this creepy reptilian eye when Frodo or whoever picks up the ring, they'll get that weird reptilian orange eye. It's like Sauron. Well, that's what that is. It's the South Pole of Saturn. And of course, this is within the cultural zeitgeist at the moment, Metatron's cube, or the hexagon on the North Pole of Saturn. Now, many people are quick to just deride the Star of David as this, and the compass and what's called for the Freemasonry symbol, the six-pointed everything has to represent this. That isn't necessarily true, and I just want to add a little bit of nuance here. We'll go through this. So in regards to, especially the Star of David, so many people are just hammering the whole, it's all Jews at the moment. It's silly. I mean, religion isn't a thing. But within the Kabbalist tradition, which is a thing, because this is mysticism, this is real, this is more mystery school sort of stuff, you can derive it from both the life tree of life and the life of death. So on the right side, this would be what most people would interpret Satanism is. I mean, this is basically inverse Judaism or Sabbatean Frankism, essentially, right? And then on the left, you have its polar opposite. Ideally, if you're seeking enlightenment, truly, you need the combination of both, because it is the yin and the yang, the balance. And it's more nuanced than just committing evil and committing good. It's understanding how these play its role in the entire cosmos. But important to note, one must trudge through hell before reaching the heavens. Okay, that's why this exists. There you have it, the six-pointed sun, the symbology. And also, of course, the hexagon is a two-dimensional cube. So you unpack the cube and you have the cross. And you see on the left side the Kaaba in Saudi Arabia at Mecca, that people will walk around 7 times, which we'll get into number 7 after this, representing Saturn, okay? You see this, I mean, look at black rock, black cube, all these major global corporations being named after this sort of thing. That is Saturn, Satanism, okay? But we'll provide a little more context and a little more nuance to that. You also see these cubes out the front of all these financial centers. It represents materialism, the money god, okay? Now, this is a trip. So, we've just been speaking about the hexagon. Now, when we get... So, understand, Saturn in Western esoteric philosophy is the ruling planet, the demiurge, the creator god of this specific realm, if you want to put it that way, and it is the god of time, right? So we get hexed, the hexagon, into material space-time as a carbon crystal of which its atomic makeup is 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. That is the mark of the beast, just being born into materiality. Okay? It's nothing evil, so any scare tactics or anything they use to instill fear and keep you away from these ideas, that's what the 666 means. Now, the dark sun. What does it truly represent? Well, it is the highest heaven, which is a paradox in a sense, but I'll cover that in a minute. I think the greatest deception itself is that Saturn represents evil itself. It doesn't. It represents materialism, and that is a beast to be conquered within you. People have this idea of this Satan external being that one day the Antichrist is going to show up on Earth, and then the Messiah is going to come save them. Nah, babe, you only save yourself. This battle is within. It is the highest faculty. It's Kronos is the crown, the highest chakra, the 1,000-petaled chakra, crown chakra, that when you're able to detach from material space-time, you conquer the highest demon, the big baddie. You slay the beast. You slay the dragon. That is Satan, to achieve your enlightenment. That's what that is. If anything, it represents truth in order to conquer it. But it's interesting, it depends on how you define Satanism. And I've had to think about this, and in retrospect, considering Satan represents time, any slave to time is the true Satanist. Not those who conquer it. When you understand that, this is that and you are this, and so this is everything and you are it, then if that even exists and you are it, then it's part of you. So it lays within you. This is an internal spiritual battle. People hanging around waiting for some dude to show up and come and fix their shit, they're going to be waiting for a few more lifetimes yet, at least. So I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Take some responsibility for your own actions, your own shit going on, but we'll get into that later. This is also fun. Okay, so the idea that the sun, our source of light, the only reason we are alive, we can live, is because of our sun, right? It emits light. Its polar opposite, the dark sun, Saturn, is our source of death. It devours, it kills us through time. If you think about it, our parents don't give us life, they give us death. The second we are conceived, we are dying, which is beautiful, because we get to experience. But people have this fear of death, so they are a slave to time, you see? So the opposite to emit, time. The opposite to live, evil. The opposite to lived, devil. They're clever bastards, aren't they? Here you have, in the Hermetic tradition, there's 7 ruling planets. These also correspond to our days of the week, So, Sun Day, Moon Day, Tuesday represents Mars, Wednesday you have Mercury, Thursday you have Jupiter, Friday Venus, and on Saturday, on the Sabbath, well, we all go out and get pissed and enjoy a bit of revelry and a bit of this, that, and the other, because it is a Saturn frequency. Saturn rules Saturday. It doesn't mean evil. It is just a frequency. It represents something. Okay? We have the 7 noble metals, each with their corresponding planetary alignment. We have the 7 archangels. Archangel Saint Michael is the sun. Okay, the 7 chakras. We have 7 notes that round up to an octave. We have the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 Hermetic principles, okay, which I'll get into in another episode. But again, this number 7, once been seen, cannot be unseen. Once you go down this rabbit hole, then you're George in the jungle there. The serpent with 7 coils around his neck. Yes, even your favorite Dragon Ball Z for all you millennials. This is what that represents. The 7 chakras and the Kundalini serpent within you. You know, going Super Saiyan, that is going Super Satan. That is what that is. It's enlightenment, dude. So you need to overcome the fear of Satan. You need to conquer the beast within you in order to achieve your enlightenment, your demigod status or Christendom or whatever. Okay? Now, this will be very difficult for many people to digest, that their God, Savior and Hero didn't actually exist in the way they think he did. Now, it's far easier to make a fool of someone than have them believe they've been made a fool of themselves. So bear that in mind. And what I do ask of those people that have felt a physiological reaction, a gut sort of feeling going, oh, that was uncomfortable, why do I feel like that? Well, that's your intuition telling you something. We have 3 brains, not 1. We have 1 here and 1 down here in the belly. Okay? When you get a gut feeling, that is your intuition. Listen to feeling. That is spirit telling you something. Okay? And why is it difficult to believe these things? Well, it's because we don't want to believe them. And why wouldn't we want to believe them? Well, it's because we attach our identity to our beliefs. Okay? I mean, the whole matrix, the idea of the matrix at the moment, is essentially people being attached to this false belief system in which they identify as a consensus reality. That's false. You've been programmed into a whole lot of bullshit, and that sucks, and I understand why people don't want to believe that, because why would you? But at some point, either you accept it or you just better luck next round. I don't know. So take it or leave it. But that was fun, right? 33 slides. How apt. Till the next one, Wumu, Wu Wei.